Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having an awesome and joy-filled day. Today will be an exciting short notice event. Not that the event will be short, but JC came in about 4 hours ago and had me post this. Hi, Anita. Hello, Christopher. Hello, Helena, Lori, Louise. This is an amazing time we live in right now. This ascension process is a real thing. This capability to communicate with multidimensional beings is a real thing. It's not some pipe dream. We have gotten so, hello, honey. We've gotten so caught up and identified with thinking the world that we know is the world we know of our senses. And it has caused us, in many cases, to become senseless. Like I said, JC came in about 4 hours ago and he said, it's time people understand how to transform resistance into assistance. Because I know that some of you are struggling with internal resistances. And he said it was really important to come through and communicate with you guys. And he says, we're just going to wait a few minutes. I hope you guys have been applying this process that Norma channeled through about 10 days ago. It's a really simple statement. I'm going to be posting it across many platforms today because it's a very, very powerful and articulate way that JC gave Norma on how to literally take back all of your projections, not only from yourself, but from the world around you. And it's a really simple process. And JC actually called Norma on the phone today and spoke to her for a good 30 minutes to articulate how and why the process works, which was pretty profound for both of us. And I want to have him share that information and insight with all of you today. Because in order to transform resistance into assistance, you need to know how to not put the resistance out in the first place. And that's very important. He says you'll know more as we get into this. He says he's going to wait another minute or two for everybody to come. He said there's still some people to come yet. Just so you know, my experience of JC is, and my relationship with him is quite profound and goes back a long time. In this lifetime, my experience with him is one where he has basically watched over me, but he has not taken the role of ever interfering or directing me deliberately and intentionally. That's been mostly Archangel Michael. Michael has repeatedly in my life stepped into situations and orchestrated events that preserved and protected my physical expression. He laughs at me now because he says, you know, your physical expression isn't who you are, but for the purposes that we have divined in this dimension, it's important that we protect your form. And that was a really fascinating piece of information. And when he first told me that, I was in tears of joy because realizing that your guides and your angels have your best interests at heart because they cannot see you as separate from them. And once you recognize that truth, once you realize that you aren't separate from them either, it becomes a two-way street. And resistance is only when you believe you're in a dead end, when you've got nowhere to go. And sometimes it can be as simple as just changing a perception. He's saying everybody's almost here now. So understanding this simple process that Norma channeled through, it was three simple statements that go right beside each other. Whenever you find yourself, yeah, I know, he's saying I'm trying to steal the show. Okay. He's saying these statements that I gave to you are designed specifically to enable you to release anything that would inhibit you from being fully who you are, while simultaneously releasing anybody or anything from your judgment, which would also imprison you into a finite space of limited being. The statement which I gave to these two is very simple. I'm sorry. I take that back. I love you. And this is a process, what many people call forgiveness, that I taught in Galilee and many other places. This process of forgiveness is not one where you forgive the wrongdoings of others. It is where you forgive the negative judgments that you yourself hold towards yourself or others. And one's ability to be able to release deliberately negative self-judgment, whether that be towards your physical body, your environment, to the thoughts in your mind, to the beliefs and your limitations of your capabilities. Any form of negative self-judgment will of necessity result in a judgment of negativeness towards the world around you. As it is within you, so it is around you. And I charged everyone with the simple process of understanding forgiveness. There are many groups and organizations throughout history that have restructured what I have had to say in a fashion that did not represent accurately the meaning, nor purpose, nor function of what it was that I truly taught. There was no complexity to what I had to share. It was very simple. Forgiveness, to let go of that which no longer serves you. In fact, to not even get engaged in that which does not serve you. But I'm going to invite you today to experience your own power to forgive yourself and the world around you. The magnifying effect of this process being consciously enabled facilitates incredible growth, evolution, and invitation for the Holy Spirit to come into, through, and around you in a far more effective and resistanceless way, where there is no impediment to that infinite intelligence that is you, as you, flowing through you. We're not going to get into the apparent paradoxes between being an individual and an entire unified field, for that would not support the process of experiencing forgiveness from the perspective of being an individual. And so my goal here today, at this time, is to walk you through that process of forgiveness, to experience it on an emotional, energetic level, so that you can feel the energetic liberation that naturally occurs when you withhold judgment and restore love. Because these three statements, I'm sorry, acknowledges three things. I'm sorry acknowledges your awareness of the negative judgment. It acknowledges your awareness that that emotional energy can impact yourself or others negatively. It also acknowledges your willingness to take responsibility for it. I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry. The next step in the sequence is very simple. I take that back. I take this energy back. I no longer wish to put it out towards the world or towards my body or towards my partner or towards my big toe or towards any part of my life. I take that judgment back. So we have two steps. That of acknowledging your awareness and your consciousness of that which no longer serves you. The second part is the ability to take back that emotional expression before it begins to produce effects in your material experience. That first two steps is crucial to be affected and felt. And I say to you, you must feel in awareness that negative judgment. If that negative judgment is, look at that person honking their horn. That judgment, if you catch the judgment, I'm judging, and you can feel the feeling to that judgment. When you feel the feeling to the judgment, now you have the judgment in your possession. I'm sorry, I take this back. I love you, and you extend in the third step the grace, which is love of God, of self, of being, to that situation, that individual, that circumstance, to your body, to your mind. And in the restoration of love, you find liberation. And so I'm going to ask each of you at this moment to look at your life right now. What is it you are angry or upset or disappointed or fearful or uncertain about? What is the circumstance, situation, person, place, or thing that judgment is connected to? I'm going to ask you to feel that judgment, to feel the emotion about that thing. And in being aware of that emotion, make the decision, I'm sorry, that you do not want to put that out anymore. I'm sorry. I take that back. I love you. And the I love you is always placed in reference to that person, place, thing, or event. that you wish to restore love to. And you cannot restore love out there without also establishing it within your own heart. You cannot separate yourself from that which you are connected to in awareness. And in the process of resuming and taking responsibility for these negative emotional judgments, and then restoring love restores you and restores them, the circumstance, the event, to love also. So if you will, please stop. Take a moment. Take a minute to look at your life right now, those things that you're angry or upset or hurt, past or present or future. Take one. Become aware of it, of the judgment. That happened to me when I was 5 and I'm really angry. If you're aware of the anger, I'm sorry. I take that back. I love you. If that I love you involves another person or an event or an experience, it does not matter, for the establishment of deliberately intending love to anything restores it to the event, to the individual, and to yourself. You will feel this as you do it. So I will remain silent as you do this. Are you feeling what happens? This is where many of the people that I've worked with over the years have gotten lost. Can you feel the change? Can you feel how you deliberately identify the judgment? Oh, the judgment, I hate him or I hate her. And then the anger. And the minute you identify or are conscious of those, I'm sorry, you bring it back. And then, I love you. Feel the difference in your being at the end of the third step. Feel the difference in your being at the end of the third step. And share your experience with those with whom you are communing with in this process. For transformation must be agreed upon in order for it to be actualized in your experience. But you do not need to get somebody that you dislike to agree to love, because once you establish love in place of your anger or your fear or your judgment, you will be liberated from your judgment, and they will too. He's saying this is not a complicated process. I made this elegantly simple, and it has always been elegantly simple from the very first moment it was conceived. That love restores all things to God. Love restores all things to light. And your willingness to feel your process of transformation as you enable the restoration of love through the process of forgiveness, which is the responsibility and the taking back of that judgment that you no longer wish to experience in your life or put upon this world. For you can look at the world you exist in and you can see where the judgments are and where the judgments aren't. The judgments are always where there's pain and suffering. And where there is love, there is no pain and suffering. There's joy and bliss. It's very simple. And if you are in suffering, it's because you have judgment. The moment you release yourself from that judgment, you rescind the emotional judgment, take responsibility for it, and restore love. You will feel this. Are you doing this now? Are you feeling this now? Because you will change what you are being when you restore love. You will know who you are when you restore love. You'll be able to be that which you are through the restoration of love. And so, while we entitled this, Using Resistance to Create Assistance, is exactly what you're doing. For the resistance is the negative judgment. The rescinding of that judgment is the release from the resistance. And your capacity to do so is as easy as saying 1, 2, 3. It has always been easy. Always. From the beginning, when the word was first spoken, creation is easy. In your process of separateness, which is an illusion in and of itself, you still have the process to utilize, to move yourself into that ease and grace at any moment. Are you doing this now? I'm sorry. I take that back. I love you. I am sorry. I take that back. I love you. And if you feel the extension of your love after the retraction of your judgment, there will be no more judgment. And then it's just the maintenance, the process of practicing, for you will have many judgments. Then you will become aware of many more judgments. And then you release them quickly. And the more you release them, the less come. The transformation of your being from a place of fear to a place of love will be quite quickly once you understand and can experience this process deliberately and intentionally. And the only reason I came here was to establish that truth. The only reason any of you came here was to establish this truth. The only reason any of us came into being is to establish the truth that we are love. And that can be the dominant process of creation in your experience. He's saying, there's not much more I can say on this. It's as simple as I can possibly make it. What is not so simple in the beginning is the application of it, for it requires that you must become aware of your judgments, and you must become aware of the emotions that you put with those judgments, the energy of your spirit that you shape to that judgment. And once you release that by pulling it back, taking responsibility for it, I take that back. I love you. You will feel the liberation. You will feel this. Some of you are feeling it now in various degrees. This is very simple. It is only complex if you do not know how to allow yourself to feel, or if you're too afraid to deal with the fullness of your judgment. So you start one judgment at a time. The one that you see in the moment. I'm sorry. I take that back. I love you. Even if somebody annoys you that you do not even know, if they annoy you because of the way they talk or the way they yell or whatever, I'm sorry. Their upset is not theirs. Their upset is yours, and you've taken it on, and now you judge them for it. You hold them prisoner to their own judgment while holding yourself prisoner to theirs. And your willingness, I'm sorry, I take that back, I love you, is the liberation of both of you and the restoration of the divine within each of you just a little bit more. Although it was always there in fullness, you're just doing a bit of spiritual window cleaning. A little bit of spiritual window cleaning. Yes. Okay. He's saying there's things you want to know now. So, okay. So I'm gonna, yes and no. He wants me to correct my eyes, listener. They won't fix it for you. They'll give you instruction, direction, but you have to take the action. Like we have to do that. We have to take the steps. They'll give us advice, information, guidance, love, compassion, but it's up to us to enact the information we get. It's like a teacher. When a teacher teaches you what 1 + 1, it's up to you to retain that knowledge and learn how to apply it. It's the same thing here. That's correct. He's laughing like crazy, Lori, but it's a brilliant, brilliant consideration, because that's how most people keep themselves stuck, he says. Most people keep themselves stuck because they think, Well, they did that to me. It made me feel terrible. I went through 7 years of intense sexual abuse at the hands of a step-parent. I could have but conventional standards, I have a lot of reasons to be angry and upset and be miserable and unhappy because of those events that destroyed my childhood. I could go there if I wanted to. I chose not to. I had to learn how to let that go. That being, by the way, has never been in my life when I let it go, when I stopped judging him, when I released him. And I can actually remember the exact moment that happened. And it happened when I was living in another part of the city many years ago, and I was in a really dark emotional place. And yes, he says it's okay, I'll tell you this. I was in a very dark emotional place, and I felt isolated, and I was 25 then, and I was in a deep state of blaming my stepfather for everything he did to me. My life, the way it was at that time, was all his fault. And I said, as I was thinking, I said, I wish I had a real father. I said that to myself. I said, I wish I had a real father that loved me and cared about me. And then this voice in my head said, he did love you and care about you. And I went, what? And I'm looking, how did he love me and care about me? And all of a sudden, he had introduced me to reading. He introduced me to philosophy, to sports. He got me to be less introverted. There were so many gifts that I hadn't even acknowledged because I was in such judgment of how bad those things he did to me were, and that I could not see all the good. And what's really funny, when I suddenly recognized, my God, he was like a father to me on one hand. He was something else on the other hand, but I never recognized this aspect of this being actually, in spite of their destructive behavior, was actually extending love to me. And in my heart, in that moment, I just turned out to him psychically, and I said to him, I don't know where you are, but I want you to know I really appreciate all of the good that you gave me. And the moment I spoke those words, I had this feeling come over my body. It was just this great feeling of relief. And I knew that I was over. I knew I was over that hatred and that anger. And what's really fascinating is less than an hour after I did that, my phone rings, and it's my stepfather, who I hadn't seen since I was 15. And his first words were, I need to speak with you. I'll meet anywhere you like. Let's go and meet. So I did. I went and I met him at this bar down on Main Street. I was 25 then, so I did drink. Down this bar on Main Street here in Toronto, Main and Kingston Road. And I was waiting there, and he came in. I'm really nervous and anxious, right, because my past programming is reacting. And he comes and he sits down in front of me, and he says to me, I've got just a few things I want to say to you. I'm really sorry about what happened, and I can't change it, but I think you should know that some of the effects of my actions towards you, how they might influence your life. We spent the next 9 hours speaking together. That was when I was 25. I've never seen him again since, nor heard from him. 25, 50, so that's almost 60 years ago, 35 years ago since I've seen him. That process of forgiveness that JC's just articulated to you will completely liberate you from the attachments that your past is keeping you stuck in. It will liberate you from the pain that you carry because of your judgments about what happened. What happened, happened. But if you remain in judgment and pain about it, you can't get out of it. You're stuck. It's like I want to go forward, but I'm going to hold on to this. You can't. You can't serve both. You can't serve both. He's saying that should be sufficient enough for you. You're going to also discover, as you start to become fluid with your guides and your mentors and the divine beings, as you become more fluid with them, there's a dance, this exquisite dance. You just flow. It's like you're holding each other, you're loving each other. They're speaking, you're speaking. It's just a dynamic conversation. Nobody overspeaks on anybody. It's really quite brilliant. Oh, you're welcome, Gloria. Oh, I love all this interest. There's a great. Carol. JC's saying to you, you cannot be loving to another if you are not loving to yourself. If you are judgmental to yourself, you will be judgmental to others one way or another, whether you are aware of it or not. You must release the judgment of yourself in order to be able to honestly release others from judgment as well. The judgment must be released from within you first. When it is released in here, then it will be released out here, and then you restore love. Okay, Christopher, he's saying, you know by the feeling. He's saying when you feel something is not right, there is a negative judgment. At the moment of your awareness of that feeling, you make the statement, I'm sorry. I take that back. I love you. You do not need to know what you are restoring love to, for whatever you restore love to shall be whole, and you also shall be whole. There is no question of this fact. Wow. I love JC. Oh boy. Ooh, I'm so hot. Excuse me. Yeah. I don't know if you guys can feel JC around you right now, but he says, I'm with all of you, and I love all of you. We are brethren and sisters. We are all one family. We are all one family. Wow. Louisa is saying, is it a judgment to decide not to go to the family reunion? I feel I listen to my heart if I don't go. He's saying that, again, as long as you are restoring whatever it is in your heart you feel towards them that would make you choose to not go, and you release yourself from that judgment and them from that judgment, then you are free to decide whatever you will. For if you are functioning from the principle of establishing love in any situation, you can do no wrong and you can do no harm. But I would suggest to you that if you are avoiding certain feelings because they are uncomfortable, then you are not ready to establish your release from judgment and restore yourself to love. For any time something outside of yourself reminds you of your discomfort, it is the time that you are in negative judgment, and it's time for you to release it. Not time to hold on to it, not time to fight for it, not time to avoid it. This is the time of your liberation, discomfort, not of imprisonment. But you must be willing to follow the sequence of this simple process. I'm sorry. I take this back. I love you, whether that be towards yourself or the situation or the family or the world or the universe. Or the universe. Because some people say that. I hate life. They say it. They judge life with hatred. And they wonder why they suffer. They're not suffering because of life. It is their judgment. I'm sorry. I take that back. I love you. Wow. Wow. Thank you, Anna. I'm really glad to hear that. I do not often go into stories, but he said this was one that would be valuable to somebody, and obviously it is. My past is my past. It does not govern my present anymore. I have great respect and honor and love for all of my experiences and the people that I've crossed paths with, the people that I used to think hurt me, as well as the people that love me. And when you come to a place where you're no longer in judgment of any of that stuff, you're free. Yeah. He's saying you are free. You're already free anyway. You just have to consciously be aware that you are, but you also have to know how to maintain it. While you're in an individual form, you are differentiated to some degree from the oneness by the very nature of the form in which you find yourself. He says, Laurie, he says, you're welcome. Yes, he says, Chris, he says very quickly, yes, you want to forgive everything in your past. He says, but you don't have to forgive everything, for as you begin to establish love, that love in and of itself will begin to transform and renew your life. The very nature of the expression of love is that it makes everything into itself, as equally as fear would do the same to you. Anytime you do not have to remember specific events in order to transform your being back to love and to restore the others to love. You must merely simply recognize the feeling that is a negative judgment, for any negative feeling has a negative judgment. You don't even have to know what the thought is, but if you know what the feeling is, I'm sorry, I take that back. I love you. And your intention of love in exchange for that judgment will restore you. You can feel it. Do it right now. Don't wait. Do it while we speak. Do it while we have this time, so you remember. Because your mind likes to forget, or so you think. I'm sorry. I take that back. I love you. Understand, like he's putting out some pretty, I don't know if you guys can feel this, I'm feeling it right here. I've been on cloud nine for the last 4 or 5 hours, just being in union with him. But I hope you guys are feeling this too. Kate, he's saying, for you to make such a statement reveals the judgment that you have about them. And if they so choose to suffer, would it not be wiser for you to hold them in the feeling of love as opposed to the feeling of fear? For the nature of your love is such that it can transform them without you having to interfere directly. Love does not have to be seen in order for it to be felt. Do you not know this from my presence? I know this from yours. Oh, you're welcome, Alex. It was an amazing thing. I got to tell you, that moment in my life was a pivotal point. When you realize that no matter how bad a person can be, there's some good in everybody. And it's hard to fathom that or comprehend that or understand that when you're in it. But you either come to terms with your pain and your hurt instead of making other people responsible for it. If you try to make other people responsible for your pain and suffering and hope they're going to make it up to you or make your life better, you're stuck. Because the only one that can transform you is you. There are others that can influence you and affect you with their vibration and love. I mean, Jesus being with me right now is like cloud nine. I got Michael standing over here giggling away, watching this whole process unfold, right? And it's an amazing thing. Others can influence you, but you still have to be willing. You still have to be willing to do what you can do to be responsible for releasing yourself from the judgment. Yeah. Yes. You're very welcome, darling. Yes, indeed. Good for you. Understand, okay. He's saying, understand that this, just my hair standing up on end, that's just me a lot, right? It's just, if you can understand, and I know you will understand as you release yourself from this. He says, as you release yourself, deliberately and intentionally, by the rescinding, the pulling back of your judgment and the extension of your love, you will know truly that all is as you want it to be. Wow. Go forward. Practice this. Kate, he's saying, why would you judge yourself to be a doormat? For in the judgment of being a doormat, you set yourself up to have people judge you that way and treat you that way. Take that back from yourself. Take the feeling of being a doormat back and extend love to your being. He's saying they tried to do that when he taught the concept, turn the other cheek. He said, I never meant that you should turn and let somebody hurt you. I meant that you should turn away from any ideas or thoughts or beliefs that would sustain the energy that would permit that to occur in your life. And even if it did occur, you still have the energy to release yourself from the pain of those events and restore love now. Turning the other cheek was not about being a doormat. Turning the other cheek was about knowing how to turn your attention and your love back on and your heart away from darkness. This is a good point you bring forward, Irene. He's saying this is a very good point. When you see people like arguing in your mind, you can simply feel your feelings of anger or fear or whatever their argument brings forth in you, for their argument will be their judgment upon themselves, trying to impose it upon you. So it is important in those moments when you realize those feelings, whether it be fear or guilt or shame or anger, to take that back for yourself and say, I'm sorry, in your mind. Do not say this to them, because many of them will not understand this. And this is what I spoke to my disciples. Go forth, but speak to those who will listen. I never said speak to those who were ignorant. I said be mindful. Be mindful. So when you see them spewing or arguing in front of you, and you feel your emotion around that, your emotion is your projection attempting to go back, to give that back to them which they're giving to you. And the only way you can release yourself from that which they're giving is the process. I'm sorry. And you do this in your mind, literally inside, with your lips closed, a little smile on your face if you like. I'm sorry. I take that back. I love you. For even in the acceptance of the feelings that they project at you will be the transformation of your own being and restoring yourself to love. And that in turn will affect them. You will see this. He says you will see this the next time you see this argument. And you go into that state and you feel your feelings and you take them back. I'm sorry. I take that back. I love you. You restore love to yourself and to them. Even if you do not think on one hand they are deserving of your love, restore them to it, for you shall restore yourself to it. If you do not restore yourself to love, or you do not restore them to love, you deny yourself love, and you deny them the opportunity to be restored as well. I was very clear on this. So have fun. Wow. Wow. He's saying also Okay. He's saying he's gonna let me go from here now. This part of our program of being in the present moment is really important to understand this. This process will put you into the present moment because you are letting go of anything that's not of the present. Love is here and now. When you are in a state of non-judgment, you are in a state of love, a state of pure being. And from that place, you can create whatever experience you wish to experience in this world. And so this goes in conjunction with the 20 minutes meditation that you're doing each day, that I hope all of you are doing, and just learning to be in the present moment. You can use this process during that. So if you've got something coming up like, oh, fuck, this is boring, or what the hell am I going to do? I'm sorry. I take that back. I love you. Pardon me for that F-bomb, but that's just the way it came out. But the point is that you can use this anywhere, anytime you recognize there's a judgment that would harm you or another. And what your life is now is the full product and scope of all that you hold in your consciousness to be true or not true. Yes, Jennifer, he says, it is not about releasing it. It's about taking it back and restoring love. The minute you are aware, the problem is that people have released it. They've released their anger, they've released their shame, they've released their frustration, and it perpetuates in this world. It becomes a creative energy. When you become aware of your frustration or your upset or your disappointment, and you say, wait a minute, I don't want this in my life. I take that back. I love you. It's the reverse of what you think. Yeah, I know. Yes, Carol. Yes. He says, absolutely. If you can feel, he says, the key for you is if you are able to feel the emotion to whatever judgment you may have, and you can feel what happens when you say, I take that back. I love you. Whether that be to your own being, for thinking you are not good enough, or you're not doing it right, or you haven't got it proper, or I'm too old and I haven't done the right things in my life and I'm a failure. As you release all of those judgments, as you release those by taking responsibility for them, I take that back. I take that judgment that I'm not good enough. I take that back. I love you. I take back that I'm not good enough. I take that back. I love you. And that process, that conscious, articulated process, produces the change that you desire. Because you will feel it. He says, you will feel it. Wow, this is pretty cool. Just checking my time here. Yeah. We have so much, I'm going to speak just what's coming through. We have so much excitement and enthusiasm for the process you are engaged in is, we would say, miraculous, but that would be to imply that there's something other than what you are occurring in your experience. It is simply a process by which you restore your awareness of yourself to yourself. And it will take some time for some of you, but be patient. You will know by the feeling if you're following the process effectively. You'll know by the feeling. Michael's saying, and you can honestly just turn it over to me too. That's easier. It's always easier to give something up to somebody else, but it's far more rewarding when you achieve it for yourself. And we have both modalities here. That where we teach you to do that which we do. But we also know that sometimes your burden is heavier than you can carry. And we can take it from you, if only temporarily, until you gain a little more strength. But we prefer the former than the latter. We prefer you to learn and apply, and learn and apply, and know. The world around you is the world within you. And there are beings on this dimension that can be as dark as you can imagine, that can be transformed in an instant of love's exposure to them. You will find that those things around you will begin to change rapidly, as we are here in great numbers. We are here in vast numbers to restore love's vibration to humanity, which in turn will restore love's vibration to this beautiful earth. It is inevitable that energies of certain kind will produce very specific results. When you understand this, then you will know the value in restoring love within your heart and restoring it to all things that you would judge as unequal to love. If you restore them to love, they will not be unequal to you either. And you will release that which is unloving from the world by releasing it from within yourself. Wow. Okay. I've been super hot, but super charged. Well, I hope you guys, I have a few minutes, I still got a couple more minutes. I wasn't planning on bringing anybody on today, and because JC was very insistent that it was really important that this one 3-step process be articulated properly for each of you to understand at the level you're capable of receiving it at this time, and that how you apply it from where you are will be good enough. And that it'll become clearer and clearer as to what you really need to do, because you'll feel differently. You see, you cannot do this process and not feel change, unless you are not fully being aware of that which you're choosing to would take back from the world, or from yourself, that judgment. I'm sorry, I take that back. I love you. And I got to tell you, since he gave this to Norma, I've been applying this like crazy for the last 12 days, and it's been it's been mind-blowing to watch what's unfolding around me and within me, because you cannot separate the two. We are one. The universal field is one great field. And however you affect one part of it does affect the other parts of it. And so I've been watching people literally scowling at me, and I'm thinking, and I judge that scowl, I'm going, I'm sorry, I take that back, I love you. And then suddenly they're smiling, literally in the same instant, right? You start to see things happening around you when you do this process. You start to be mindful of how people are different around you because of what you're doing within yourself. And when you start to realize that, you begin to understand what they mean when they say, we are our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper. You begin to really understand that because you start to see how you affect the world around you. And when you do it from a place of knowledge and knowing, the effects are staggering. I mean, look at Tony Robbins. I mean, he's impacting tens of thousands of lives around the world. Joe Dispenza, Louise Hay, Shakti Gawain. There are many beings that have gotten into such a state of inner love and grace that the transformative power of that love and grace in and of itself begins to remodel the world wherever they go. The people, the world begins to change around them. The people in the world around you will begin to change as you re-engineer the architectural process that you use to process your life through. And that's our goal here. That's why we are all here. We're conspiring to experience love as a natural manifestation of being, which it is anyway. Wow. I hope you guys drink water during these lives. And they're telling me expect more, not less of this. Expect more of this. For the vibrational frequency that they transmit through me, through my voice, through you and your mechanism simultaneously. Like, it happens from all points of time and space simultaneously. It's not a finite thing like your mind conceives. Oh, William's here and I'm here. And it's simultaneous. And quantum physics is clearly proving that a particle affected, across the world, another particle identical to it responds. And like I said, all of the evidence of everything that I've been teaching and guided to teach for the last 35 years is now coming out scientifically being proven. I wish I'd been more of a scientist, but I think the school system would have really diminished and inhibited me. That's why I think I left school in grade 10, right? Just because it did not sustain the spirit of who I was. It would have sustained the mind. But I hope everybody's drinking water. I'm going to see if there's any more last comments here, and then I'm going to sign off for today. I think we have Jill tonight, by the way. Jill's going to be on tonight. That should be really fun. She's going to be doing sensing energies tonight as well. As you noticed, we focused on sensing energies this week. And yet, I've also want to say I appreciate and respect all of you for coming on live and continuing your practice channeling and card reading. Remember, focus is everything. What you focus on, you become aware of. You generate energy there. You focus on love, you create love. You focus on sadness, you create sadness. The choice is completely yours. But these activities that we give you to do are designed very specifically and in a specific sequence to get a very precise result. And when you're dealing with people like Jesus and Buddha and Lao Tzu and Kuan Yin, they know exactly how energy works. Why and what for is why I listen to them, because they know more than I do. Like, if I want to learn how to build electric cars, I'm going to go talk to Elon Musk. I'm not going to talk to my neighbor who's built go-karts. I want to talk to somebody who knows. And that's why we're connecting these people, so you can know what you do not know, so you can grow. Okay. Yes, good. Very important. Water, like I said, just during this time, I finished this bottle, and I'm halfway through this bottle now. And that's just in 47 minutes. So understand, when you start communicating and channeling, the demands, the sheer demand of electrical energy from your brain alone is staggering. When you start connecting to different dimensions, your brain has to process that different frequencies of these different beings in a different way. So you use more electrical energy. You got to keep the system hydrated and energized. I hope you're eating lots of live food, no caffeine, no alcohol, things that would not sustain a high vibration. And I promise you, you're going to become more and more sensitive to those things. I can't even eat a pastry. If I eat a pastry, I literally look like I'm narcoleptic. Literally, if I try to eat a pastry, that's what'll happen. Woo, literally. So I can't go to low vibrational foods. There's no place in my life for it if I want to experience my life the way I want to experience my life. And you'll learn that too. Anyway, I don't want to get into anything extra. I just want to say, guys, thank you so much for showing up today. I hope to be on soon again. I don't know when that'll be, but again, I follow their lead because they know where they're going and I know where I'm going to. So thanks again for your time and energy. By the way, today is the last day that anybody can register for the 102. So if you know anybody that wants to jump in, today's the day to do it. Please let them know because it's not going to be open after 6 p.m. today. Anyway, have yourselves a great, wonderful, joy-filled day. Much love to everybody. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody.